let's get Joel Klatt in here. Klatt, we were supposed to have that college football game. Was it Wisconsin? Who was Wisconsin going to play in at Lambeau earlier this year? God, why am I? Notre Dame, are going to play Notre Dame. That we don't have that. What's your level of confidence that we're going to get a college football season in?
Well, it's a great question. First of all, can I just say, like, if I had $1 for every time I get asked that every single day, oh my goodness, I might be able to quit. Doug, here's the deal. Like, if you held me down and you said you had to bet money one way or another, I would bet on that we are going to have some sort of season. We're going to see college football games. I wouldn't bet a ton of money on that, but I still am of the belief that this is going to happen. There are a lot of really positive signs that get no mention in the media for obvious reasons. The narrative wants to be kept so strong in one direction. And I think the thing that's bothersome to me, Doug, is that it seems to be the case even with the college football media. They only want to portray one side of the story, but there are several factors and several points of data that are pointing in a positive direction. Let me just share one of them. You saw yesterday, I'm sure, that the NBA came out along with the NHL, and just the minimal amount of positive tests that have been reported, including the NBA having zero. Well, that is very much in line with what's been going on at the collegiate level with the kids back for voluntary workouts. There was an obvious contingent of positive tests when the kids first came back to campus. They kind of brought the virus back. And then as the organizations and the programs, set protocols, made plans, decided to go about their business the way that they were going about it, what we've seen is those number of positives have plummeted, not just gone down, they have plummeted, including several schools. Let me just quote Oklahoma. The last 2 rounds of testing, they've had 0 positive tests. And I hear that time and time again across the landscape. It's not reported as such because, again, the narrative wants to be, keep everybody in panic mode and under fear. But there are some positive data points towards us seeing some sports here this fall.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, so then the question becomes, you'll have some that say, well, you can't have just the football kids back and not the students back on campus. My point would be why? If everybody's taking their classes online, and by the way, we all know that lots of athletes have taken classes online for years, why can't you? I mean, as long as you're taking class, you're still representing the school, you're still a student athlete. What? I mean, are you of the opinion that if the students aren't back, you can't have football?
No, I'm not of that opinion. I think that that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, athletes are on campus all the time when there is no term and no school and no other students on campus, Doug. Every sport, think about it, whether it's spring break or Christmas break or during the summer term. I mean, athletes are constantly asked to do things above and beyond what the other students are. And I'm not even saying that we have to ask them to do more because, again, they can be enrolled in class. And I would just go back to this. I believe deep down that it is far safer for these athletes to be under the care and supervision of the health experts, the training experts, their coaches, the structure, everything that goes on the campus, than they are if we were to just say, hey, you know what, let's punt and go to the spring and everybody let's just go home and let this thing quiet down. They're going to go into places where they don't have care. We don't know who they're hanging out with. They won't isolate. They won't quarantine. They won't get the best medical care that they could possibly get. And I think that that's actually more dangerous for these kids than keeping them in the campus, on the campus with the testing protocols and everything going on to potentially play the season. And that gets no run whatsoever. Everyone says, like, oh, you don't care about these kids' lives. The fact of the matter is that these kids are under far greater danger from things like lightning strikes, drowning, car accidents than they are from COVID-19. But nobody wants to talk about it that way. But those are the facts that we are faced with right now.
All right. So, but why? Why do you think that the narrative is negative?
Well, I think that's a more broad discussion, to be quite frank with you. And I think it goes way above just college football. I think there are several in the media, in the sports media, that constantly are trying to appease their brethren across the space, right, in the non-sports media. I think that you see that quite a bit. I think that to a certain extent, we have now gotten into an economic model with the media where sensationalism is what gets clicks, and clicks then becomes monetizable. And quite frankly, rational thought doesn't get clicks. It just doesn't, Doug, right? Like sensationalism does, fear does. We've seen it in regular media for now years, and now we're seeing it in the sports media. But the bottom line is that when you actually look at the facts, you can come to a conclusion that there are dangers, that there is a solution, and that there are data points that point towards some positivity. But to say why is it like this, I don't know. I do think that to some extent, a lot of the sports media is constantly trying to posture to prove to old classmates or whomever, others in mainstream media, just how good they are at their job.
Doug Gottlieb Show, Fox Sports Radio. That's the voice of Joel Klatt, lead college football analyst for Fox Sports. Okay, so who benefits? Like, it does feel like this is going to speed up the process of separating the men from the boys, the top 5 conferences from everybody else, and that separation. Once you stop playing non-conference games, though it hurts the college towns some. And you don't have the fans like those, the Columbuses of the world, the Ann Arbors of the world, the Austins, even the Ameses can survive, whereas the MAC schools cannot. Doesn't this just kind of speed up kind of the natural selection process, which we felt like was happening anyway?
I think so. I think that there's a lot of truth to that. I think that the conferences have done the right thing in order to retain or create solutions to potentially play, which is kind of minimize the scope of the people that come in contact with their players, right? And that's how they've gone to these conference-only schedules in some areas like the Big Ten. But you're exactly right about the effect that has on the smaller levels of football, the Group of 5, the FCS, so on and so forth. To me, there's not a great solution because part of why football is so important to the intercollegiate athletic model is because it is the overwhelming driver of revenue, not just to line people's pockets. I think that that's actually totally secondary. And I would love your thoughts on this, but the driver of opportunity. Doug, there are 150,000 scholarship athletes in the NCAA. And I know you asked a specific question about football and separation.
You don't have to apologize for having a good, strong opinion. Go.
This sport provides thousands of scholarships and opportunity to further an education for athletes of all genders and all sports all over the country. And so what we have to be cognizant of is the ways that we can continue to support student athletes, make it safe for them to compete, as well as grow revenue in order to maintain the opportunities that are out there. I don't want to see Stanford cut 11 sports. Nobody does, right? Like, those are scholarships lost. That's opportunity lost for kids all over the country. And what you've seen right now is over 120 athletic programs throughout the NCAA have been cut. So, yes, I do believe that you're going to see a separation. And part of that separation is going to come with a cost. And that cost is going to be something like you're going to have to grow the playoff. You're going to have to increase revenue in non-conference games with other high-quality Power 5 opponents so that through the revenue-sharing model, it can trickle down to the lower levels in order to maintain those levels of football and in order to maintain sports across the board, to maintain the opportunity for kids that play any number of sports all over the country.
I completely agree with you. The opportunity is the part that we don't have a calculation, even for the high level kids to get into a college. I think is an opportunity, but the opportunity for it's spread out across. There are so many kids that get into college, and the bubble is the perfect example of it, or playing for a college team right now is a perfect example of it. Just the resources you get in terms of keeping you healthy, you don't get at home. and you're treated as a higher class. You're not treated like everybody else. You're treated as a higher class of people, regardless, honestly, of your level of skill on the football or basketball field.
That's exactly right. And I think that you're going to see a massive shift in collegiate athletics out of necessity, because regardless of if there is football or not, these budgets are going to be hit by the overall economy, the COVID-19, right? I mean, you're going to see that. I think you understand that, covering college basketball. So I think what you're going to see, Doug, is an expansion of the playoff, not out of fairness, but out of a need for expanded revenue sharing. That is of the utmost of importance. Again, not just so that there is, quote unquote, more money, but there's more money to share. Because again, like this comes down to opportunity, maintaining collegiate sports so that kids all over, of every ilk, model, race, gender, whatever, that play any number of sports can maintain the opportunity to continue their education via athletics.
Joel Klatt, our guest in the Doug Gottlieb Show on Fox Sports Radio. If they do the spring thing, I mean, the top level kids aren't going to play, are they?
Well, no. I have not been a proponent of the spring thing, and it's because I believe wholeheartedly that you have to weigh the costs of both. I believe that playing in the spring and then turning around and playing in the fall is very dangerous, okay, to the health and safety of the players. It does not give you the requisite time to recuperate, to regenerate, and then to develop for the next season. Okay, so that's important. Not many guys who actually play the full season actually go into spring ball and compete in the spring. It's very rare. Why? Because they have things like surgeries, nagging injuries. They're held out of spring for the most part. Spring is a developmental period for the lower levels of your team, the younger players in your team that have not gone through the rigors of a full season. To try to play a full season in spring and then turn around and do it again in the fall, I think that there are massive consequences to the health and safety of the players trying to do so. I think those health and safety consequences are far greater than the health consequences of playing through COVID-19, in particular for this age group. Now, that might not be the same for the 65 or 70-year-old offensive line coach. I understand that, and we need to protect that person. But for the student athlete, it is far more dangerous to play spring fall than it is to play this fall through this virus, based on all the statistics and government data that we have been given to this point, cdc.org, .gov. I really believe that the spring is a bad idea because of that. I think that it's a punt for people that don't feel like there are solutions this fall, of which I do feel like there are many. Let me give you one. I believe that if we reduce the number of games to 10, play in some sort of bubble where you've got conference affiliations or just within your own conference, Doug, what you can do is you can expand the season from week 0 all the way to Christmas or just thereafter. That's about 18 or 19 weeks. So you can play 10 games in 18 or 19 weeks. What you can then do is play your first 2 games right away, and then you can have essentially a bye week between every game thereafter. What that allows for is that the inevitable positive tests will occur, and you can isolate and quarantine your team without losing numbers of games. You can't you can't encourage kids to get back too soon, so on. It's just safer. You can take 3 or 4 days off. You can maintain the testing regimen. All of those things are a better solution, a safer solution for kids, rather than just punting to the spring and then trying to get them to play a season in the spring and turn around again and play a season in the fall of 2021.
Can you imagine, though, if we had, and if the fight has been for 9 conference games, like, can you imagine if these conferences, you get 10 or 11 like where they all only played conference games every year, like how much better the sport would be. You get these massively expanded conferences where you don't actually play everybody in your league. Like, I just think it would be better and healthier for the sport, but it's, we'll see what ends up coming of it. Most importantly, how is your golf game? Because I'm intrigued.
It's good. I missed the sign up for the Southern California Amateur, which is totally on me, but it's good. I'm down. I'm playing much better.
Playing much better. That is loaded. What is your handicap?
I mean, you can look it up, but it's a plus 2.3 or 2.5 right there.
That's I don't even like you anymore. I used to really enjoy you. Now I don't even like you. Klatt, great stuff, man. Thanks so much for joining us.
I appreciate it. See you, bud.
He got better hair than me. He's got this adorable little family and a plus 2.3. Like, leave now.